Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Ha, Rakakwadash Mama. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone and the elders. Double honors to my elder as well, Aharawan Banyasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp here in Jacksonville, Florida. And salutations to the fellow Akim, Atwafium, and children, Baniam, that believe in truth and sincerity. It's your brother Athanya Allah back to you with another lesson. And Yaharatazah is edifying. And I want to start off in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7. And I want to get straight to the point. All right, as this whole chapter goes into, just the vanity that we see. Everything under the sun is vanity. All right, due to man, due to who's ruling. All right, Job 9 and 24, the wicked. The earth was given into the hand of the wicked. His unrighteous decrees, his demonocracy, just his way in life in general. And then you have 2/3 of our people who uphold that way of life, all right, who cast away the ways of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, all right, to be set apart, to be holy, all right, because of all the confusion out here, all right, the wickedness has been set to be at the people's leisure, all right, that do as thou wilt spirit, all right, so Uh, the main point and topic of this lesson is don't let or allow the woman to throw you off focus. All right, and that's twofold. All right, the spiritual woman as in other philosophies. All right, particularly this lesson is be going into the actual physical woman. All right, as her heart is snares and nets, whether knowingly or unknowingly. And this is not all women. All right, but mainly um, the Jake woman, all right, you so-called Negro, Latino, Native American women, and even within that, not all women, all right, but majority is speaking upon the wicked woman, the woman that has and lacks, the woman that lacks understanding, all right, and guidance, a true governor, a righteous man to ultimately show her right and wrong um, through the eyes and ways and through the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, all right. They can be a trap, all right. And ultimately, what salvation is on the line. All right, it could be a trap and a distraction. So this is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, and I want to start off in verse 25, and this is King Solomon speaking. All right, one of the greatest kings to live, one of the greatest king to live. All right, one of the first spirits created. All right, going back to Melchizedek. All right, he's the first Adam. All right, he's Isaac, who the world ignorantly calls JC. All right, Solomon, who is Yahweh Shah. All right, he had all wisdom. And this is Ecclesiastes 7 and 25. I applied mine heart, his mind, his la'av, to know and to search and to seek out wisdom. All right, Sophia, and the reason of things and to know the wickedness of folly, right? Because this is pretty much folly. All right, everything up under the sun is you can consider it folly. All right, what man has established his way of life, the westernized mindset. All right, going into one wife for a man. All right, putting these spiritual these laws upon man, which will put a spiritual yoke on upon the man that fleshly law, that manly law, that man-made law don't apply to. All right, which is you so-called Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians, and those of the speckled bird who may look like the other nations but bear the same spirit as such. All right, especially you men. That's why we written in the Constitution 3/5 of a man. All right, we're not to be governed by these laws, even though we're here. We have to be subject unto them. All right, we're not a fleshly people. All right, we're spiritually people. We're spiritual people, and we're to be governed. We're to be set apart again, holy from these other nations. All right, from how the rest of the world live. All right, which what goes into what Isaiah 4:1, the multiple wives, um, things of that nature. All right, a tight ship. All right, as we have what 613 laws that the Lord has established. And if you was to establish them, you won't have to keep creating laws after laws after laws like man do today. All right. So this is Ecclesiastes 7 and 25. I read it from the top again. I applied my heart to know and to search and to seek out wisdom and the reason of things and to know the wickedness of folly, right? Even of foolishness and madness. And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, right? And it's snares and nets, and that's knowingly or unknowingly. Again, you can look at women according to the Corinthians in the order of man, all right, which is Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, man, woman, then children, then the animals, all right, in that order. All right, you can look at the woman as a mature child, all right, and they need guidance as well, being the weaker vessel spiritually, all right. The Lord didn't impart her wisdom, knowledge, understanding. That's why ultimately she has to go from her father to a husband, all right. Again, the men are the first class citizens in Israel, all right, especially the men who bear the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of this truth. And here in these times, if you don't bear that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding in these times, you're considered as a pawn. You're considered nothing to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah. All right, again, let the multitude perish that be born in vain. All right, the Lord can make use of to help guide and lead his people out of this madness, out of this confusion, out of this quagmire that the devil has set up. This is Ecclesiastes 7 and 26. And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bands, who so pleaseth Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah shall escape from her. Right? Because it's always going to be on your subconscious to where you can't, it's bounds that you can't even cross when it comes to that particular woman if she was to come upon you, all right, as a trap, knowingly or unknowingly, all right. That's why any woman that we deal with in this realm, that's how we should deal with them delicately, like Clark Kent, all right, um, respectfully, all right, delicately, with nourishment, respect, and to show our light, show our anointing. All right, because that's ultimately the reason why she was led to begin with. All right, it's not about always having sex with every woman that you encounter with or cross your path. Okay, especially when you notice things like the Roman band on her, she's contract, things like that. All right, it's a trap. We go into some scriptures involving adultery as well. All right, because that's what ultimately adultery is. Adultery is when a man sleep with another man's wife. All right, or when a woman goes out of her union. All right, and consummate with someone else outside of her union. That's adultery. All right, you know, um, in the westernized mindset, they would look at as adultery as um, a man having multiple wives, quote unquote cheating. That's witchcraft. That's not adultery at all. All right, that's for the man to subconsciously feel guilty. All right, and to be bound to a man-made law. All right, look at the forefathers of old, the ancient men of the scriptures. They all had multiple wives, i.e., or concubines. All right, Solomon being one example, Abraham being a prime example as well. All right, Jacob, who later changed his name to Israel, an example. Right, the list go on and on. But this is Ecclesiastes 7 and 26, and I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, right, a trap, and her hands as bands, whoso pleaseth Yahweh Bashim Yahushua shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. Right? The scripture says a wicked woman is given to a portion of a wicked man. All right. So all these things, knowing the wisdom and having the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, these things that keep you in bounds. These things that play on your subconscious to where you can't you can't even physically act out things. Again, it's what we can't see is what exists than more than what we can see. It's angels amongst us. It's things that, you know, you think. We'll continue on. This is verse 27. Behold, this have I found, saith the preacher, counting one by one to find out the account, which yet my soul seeketh, but I find not. Right. And this is one of the greatest kings. This is the greatest wisdom known to man. One man among 1,000 have I found, but a woman among all those have I not, man. So at least Solomon said he could take 1,000 men, he'll find at least one man that's righteous. All right, one king to delegate with, all right, to break bread with, to get some understanding with, all right. But then when it comes to the woman out of 1,000 women, he didn't find out one righteous. All right, why? Because they need guidance. They need to be encompassed, not the other way around. As the Lord has says, he found a new thing on the earth, that the woman shall compass a man, all right, go about his authority. And that's ultimately what a man is, a father is. Father goes into authority, right? And that's why a woman is to pass from the authority from her father and to be passed on to her husband, all right, in that order. All right, it's gender roles within the scriptures, within the nation of Israel, within the spirit of truth. It's the book of Hebrews, chapter 13. In verse 4, marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled, right? So you want your bed to be undefiled, right? Twofold, spiritually and physically. But right now, this focus is on the physical, right? Because the physical, it can affect your spiritual. It affects your spiritual, period. All right. So it's things that you can't even act out and go about in the physical, or your spiritual will be tainted. That's why we got to dwell in the spirit more than we dwell in the flesh. All right, mentally, because it'll translate physically. It'll keep us in bounds, right? But it says marriage is honorable in all, and this is Hebrews 13 and 4. And the bed undefiled, but whoremongers and adulterers, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai will judge. All right, because it's written in the law, this New Testament. All right, we go into the law, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, you know, all throughout the scriptures, there's commandments, laws, statutes, and decrees that the Lord wants us to do, fulfill. Not be a hypocrite when it comes to, right? This Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 10. And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer, right, the man, and the adulteress, right, the woman who allowed it to happen, shall surely be put to death, right? So that's it's a penalty, all right. It's strict guidelines when it comes to the nation of Israel. When it comes to a ruling class people, we don't act out in the manner of these other nations or Esau, particularly Esau. But this is how he get down: insects, um, wedlock. Then the kids out of wedlock fight for the birthright or the rulership to be Caesar. They killing off the father. They killing off the brother. They wanna have sexual endeavors and encounters with the mama or with the sister, the like who the world worship today, Cesare Borgia, the son of the sixth Pope of Rome, roughly paraphrasing, right? That was kind of what his lot was. This is their MO. This is not the nation of Israel lifestyle. But when that lifestyle get puts upon us, hey, what happens, man? You fall up under those same curses, those same guidelines, those same actions cause the same reactions of judgment, of wickedness. All right. The wages of sin equals death. 1 + 1 = 2 with Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. All right. And this is going to continue on. All right, now it's just going into adultery, but it's even more scriptures, even going into sodomy. All right, sleeping with your first cousin, undressing a daughter and her mother. All right, again, it's strict guidelines when it comes to the nation of Israel and how a man should control himself um, lustfully. You shouldn't have lust at all. This is Leviticus 20 and verse 11. And the man that lieth with his father's wife have uncovered his father's nakedness. Right, and that's one of King David's sons, I believe. Both of them shall surely be put to death; their blood shall be upon them. And if a man lie with his daughter-in-law, right, after you with her mother, now you uncovering a daughter. This is the backwards way. Both of them shall surely be put to death. They have wrought confusion; their blood shall be upon them, man. And only the Lord will allow that act to happen for that to be fulfilled, man. Again, it's angels that won't allow your foot to dash against the stone, to where subconsciously you won't even be able to act these things out because you dwelling in the spirit, you meditating on what the Lord says. Or is that spirit tapping you on the shoulder like, hey, you know the law, you know the scriptures, to where you stay in check. You got to. All right. Verse 13, Leviticus 20 and 13. If a man also lie with mankind, right, sodomy, as he lieth with a woman, and even a woman putting sodomy upon her, that's wickedness. Both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them, man, right? And that's what's running rapid here in this realm, in this kingdom. This is modern day, this is spiritually Sodom and Gomorrah, pertaining to Revelations 11, verse 8. All right, you had talks about Obama and all that stuff coming up again. All right, he's under Scopea, the microscope, because he mentioned something on the thing with Michael, which that's being more and more, people are highlighting that to be what it is. But it's out there. This is what this place push, to where you have to damn near fight against it, man. It's all in your algorithms, on your social media, that is. This is what's getting pushed. This is the agenda. All right. And that's what that's what he had got brought up, and people talking about Obama again, about because he was out pushing that agenda again. He want heterosexual males, straight males, to befriend, just like in the workplace. They want you to be comfortable with the new norm. And the new norm is not norm. It's not normal. Leviticus 20 and 14. And if a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness, right? So just like we have brought out in 12, verse 12, messing with the daughter-in-law, is the other way around. You take a wife and then you go into her mother. All right. It is wickedness. It shall be burnt with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness among you. And if a man lie with beasts, right, bestiality, all this is within the scriptures. The Lord put laws, statutes, commandments, all right, for us to govern our lives, all right, to stay on a certain path of righteousness, of holiness, for him to be able to deal with us, for him to be able to give us the blessings and the promises that we were set up for. All right. But Esau, he's created wickedness and a quagmire to deprive our people from their blessing. All right. And that's ultimately what the Lord has set up, because we're not in our rulership yet. He's not ready to give the blessing yet. All right. But we're almost there. We're almost out of this captivity. All right. And judgment is on the brink. So we can't let a woman throw us off focus with, especially a woman that lacks understanding, who has no conscience to what she's doing. She has to be guided. Her eyes are lustful, especially in a workplace. Like, I had to tell a woman, I can't be a work boyfriend, especially being what I done went through spiritually within the truth, losing 4 kids and a wife myself, um, wherever the case may be. probably to the same thing, to a work boyfriend or to the Matrix, you know. So make them feel guilty when they approach. Let them know Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah. Let them know what you stand for, and after doing that, it's like a mother, it's like a the bitch still adamant. So then it comes rebuke, making them feel a certain way, letting them know you ain't no different from their husband, that man, outside of the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that you possess. Show them the anointing, not to entice them, but to show them it's a difference and it's a bounds, it's boundaries that's being set up and it can't be crossed. It's Leviticus 20 and 15. All right, and it's just going on and on within the law, but I just want to bring out these particular scriptures to show that there's laws in depth and in place, even when it going into just not even to go off topic with the murder music. You had the trial here in Jacksonville, Florida, with the K-Soul, the rapper, and all that stuff. Um, all that is off of resentment, a family member getting killed, and you going and seeking out revenge. All right, there's laws on manslaughter. There's laws on places of asylum that Esau ultimately don't set up to where you have black on black crime, you have retaliation crimes, because it's all about the dollar when it comes to Esau, sweat equity. All right, the prison industrial complex, slavery, which our people are still in, and they need to wake up to this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and this truth, and these ordinances that they're supposed to be up under to get right, or they're gonna perish. All right. So again, it's laws on bestiality. All right, women laying down with beasts. All right, this is verse 17. Just a skip going into incest. All right, what Cesare Borgia was guilty of, and it says, and if a man, all right, who the world ignorantly worship and call Jesus the Christ, believe it or not. All right, that picture, that image goes back to an actual person who Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci rumoredly painted. I believe Michelangelo was rumored to be in a relationship with the guy. All right, all wickedness, all madness. But this is the spirit, the energy behind these things that's been pushed out for our people to give homage and worship. All right, Anglo-Saxon God, says Leviticus 20 and 17. And if a man shall take his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, and see her nakedness, and she see his nakedness, it is a wicked thing, right? And this ain't going into, oh, your mama as y'all adolescents, as a little baby, they, bathing y'all together in the same tub. No, it's like looking upon your nakedness. All right, consummating. All right, like coming together, being joined together, becoming one, having sex. All right, that's a violation. It's a reason why uh Eve was Adam's third cousin, not his first. But I'll continue on, all right, get more back on the topic. It's the book of Matthew, chapter 5, and verse 27. Bear with me. These red letters, it's Yahweh Shah speaking itself. It's talking on personal relationships at the top of the section, all right? But it says, ye have heard that it is said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery, all right? Let's get the etymology for adultery, just to see what it says. No, it's not always correct. Right? You usually got to get the etymology online. The blue letter kind of be off. But it's derived from the Greek G 3431. Mahul. Mahul. All right. That's Yiddish. We can be translated. But it says to commit adultery. to be an adulterer. All right. B is the main point. It says to commit adultery with, have unlawful intercourse with another's wife. Right. So that's what adultery is. All right. It ain't saying cheating, a man going out and having another woman. It ain't saying that. It's saying a man having another's wife, intercourse with another's wife, of the wife to suffer adultery, be debauched. The Hebrew idiom, the word is used for those who at a woman's solicitation are drawn away to idolatry, right? Because this is a form of idolatry, worship, all right? Because it's belonging to, it's belonging, it's not, don't belong to you, which nothing belongs to us in this realm, all right? We get in the kingdom, that's what we really could say what belongs to us, because things are truly will be ours, because we'll live forever, and things will be everlasting. Everything going back to elements on this side. Everything on this side belongs to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. All right. So that's the quagmire. That's the confusion here in this realm, in this place. So we got to run a tight ship. You got to be girded up spiritually. And that's having the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, man, to be protected. All right. Having the whole armor of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai spoken of in Ephesians chapter 6. You know, from the helmet to the foot. Right. The shield, the breastplate, the whole nine. You know, not lacking, because death is at the door, man, for these people. But that's what adultery is, man. As you can see, it's when a man sleeps with another's wife. All right, it says nothing about what the westernized mindset of what these people think out there pertaining to a man cheating. That's an emotional draw, emotional play on Eve. All right, to counteract the spirit. But it's Matthew chapter 5 and verse 28. But I say unto you that whosoever looketh upon a woman to lust after her have committed adultery with her already in his heart. Right. That's why you got these Eve out here with these botched bodies trying to captivate and entice men. All right. It's the same as Jake, the man that's on steroids in the gymnasium. All right. Even the gymnasium going back to Roman and Greek. Uh, that type of lifestyle was wickedness. All right, but that's what you see out here today. All right, running rapid. You know, the men on roids, so to speak. You know, enhanced, and then you got the women out here enhanced, fake, botched bodies and all that, trying to entice men to where what even the mo blending in. This is Matthew 5:29. And if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out. Right. Whatever you got to do to get by, to get to that mark, as far as the walk, being saved, exempt from judgment, you got to do it. If your right hand offend thee, cut it off, man. If you in a certain atmosphere to where it's a woman that's being real enticing, all right, she belong to somebody, she dead wrong, you know, you calling it out like, damn, that's a big ass ring on your finger. And then that's the difference from a man and a woman. A man, in the subconscious, a lot of men, you know, a woman that had the nerve to ask the man, like, "Oh, you got a ring on?" Or blah 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 blah. Even though that don't really matter to us, we don't believe in that Roman thing. But that's how the women play here in this society. They actually question the man if they set up in that manner. All right, but the woman, she do it without as the scriptures say, man. She wipe up her mouth if she done nothing. They'll have it on. You know, enticing, talking to the next man, Johnson in hand. Crazy. It's Matthew 5:29. If that right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. Right, ghost the bitch. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. Right. You know, a whole judgment. It's salvation on the line. And then when you put that in perspective, like, I subconsciously can't even do it, and a female still adamant It just shows that she just lacks complete understanding. All right, and she wicked. All right, and it's a trap, just like these wicked philosophies out here, man. It's a trap. It's easy to stumble upon and be enticed and intrigued. Don't let it come with some incentive, money. In this case, we're talking about the box, the incentive. It'll entrap the fleshly man, a man that really cares, cares about the affairs of this world, man. Roughly paraphrasing, and that's not of the elect, right? So at some point, you look at the woman like, damn, like they just don't get it. Jake don't either though. 2/3 of our people are just, that's man, woman, and child, man, woman, and the YN, right? They they don't get it, you know, pertaining to 2/3 of our people, and that's why they ultimately have to be done away with on this side, and to be brought back into the kingdom as a newborn baby, man. That's the scriptures say. And it continues on, all right. It says in verse 30, and if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off and cast it from thee, for it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell, to judgment, destruction, perdition. Whatever you got to do to get in the Lord's good gracious and to be saved, man, keep that, all right? And cut off whatever that's hindering you, addictions, all right? The afflictions that we put upon ourselves, man, that we only have to deal with, all right? And usually you can see it before you get knee deep into it, all right? Verse 31, it have been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. But I say unto you, that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causeth her to commit adultery. And whosoever shall marry her, that is divorced, committeth adultery, right? So it's like it's unfulfilled. That you how they say in the world, you gotta have closure. Let your yays be nays and your nays be nays, man. It has to be a complete understanding between man and woman before another situation starts. Vice versa, you just want to cast her off because you want to entertain something else as a man. No, you obligated to take care of that woman, especially if you got her a certain way pertaining to the great doctrine and so on and so forth. All right, not one jot, not one tittle. Right? It's Matthew verse 19, chapter 19, Salakia, in verse 9. My fingers big. Matthew 19 and verse 9. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery. All right, just what we just went into. All right, it can't just be, oh, you lusting after something else, so you finna drop this and go run after that. All right, you gotta be able to maintain. And that's what make it hard in this westernized mindset as a man of Israel, because you can't be two places at one time. You lack spiritual power. All right. The elder had a book on teleport, right? Things like that, teleporting, like Hezekiah did with a plate of food and the lions did and Daniel, right? What the Lord made him do, actually, you know, um, various other accounts in the scriptures, you can't operate in that manner. In the Constitution, we written 3/5 of a man. We don't have the might here. We're not in rulership. Can't take care of more than one usually. All right. But if you are blessed and have that lot, as some brothers do, all right, hey, the more the merrier, man. It's a blessing, right? You know, it's a good thing when you have a faithful and an honorable wife. All right, a wife that has some form of understanding, at least the understanding of allowing you to lead her in the way that she needs to go. All right, that's righteousness. All right, and keep footing the bill. All right, keep amounting to that oath between you and Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah ultimately. All right, because that's the only oath that we are up under. Right, being in this truth. It's Matthew 19 and 10. His disciples say unto him, if the case of the man be so with his wife, it is not good to marry. But he said unto them, all men cannot receive the same, save they to whom it is given. For there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb, and there are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men, right? Because of how the world's set up. You go have eunuchs today, spiritual eunuchs, physical eunuchs, right? And there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake, right? Like Paul. I believe Paul, he didn't, when he said if it was he the one who instructed men that if it burned them, go ahead and marry. But he rather you be like him, roughly paraphrasing. All right. Focus on Sophia. All right. The first one, all right, which is wisdom. Wisdom in the Greek means Sophia. All right. So again, this 12 from the top. Again, I read from the top. But there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb, and there are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men, and there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it, right? So if you got to cut it off, cut it off. Roughly paraphrasing, you know, subconsciously got an ED. That shit it would cut off. You couldn't even move forward with your carnal wants. The spirit didn't allow you, didn't allow you to, man. That's how things operate in the spirit of truth. All right, you think you go do something, but the Lord got other plans. All right. So again, most of these women, you got to think for them. You got to be the leader. All right, as our men are accounted to be. That's our duty. That's our responsibility, being the men of Israel, so-called Negro, Latino, Native American, and Seminole Indian men, and those men who look like the other nations, but your spirit bear witness to this truth. All right, this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. All right, you go through the curses. Okay, we're supposed to be the leaders, the rulers, the govern, not to govern the people. All right. So a lot of these women, they move like Eve, man. Eve in the garden without a conscience. Um, Again, she's been deprived wisdom. Okay. She's almost numb to what she's doing to a certain extent. All right. So they what? They need righteous men to guide them, rebuke them, make them feel wrong. You know, ultimately to lead them in the path of righteousness, man. It's ultimately going to lead to Isaiah 4:1, where the Lord is going to do away with a lot, and only the righteous are going to be left. All right, the Lord go play matchmaker, spiritual. So just look at Lot's wife for example. She wanted Job to curse the Lord. This is Job chapter 2. It says Job loses his health, strength, right? And it's Job 2:9. It's Job 2:7. So went Satan, and we understand the gist of the story of Job, how the Lord sent Satan the spiritual demon on the left hand side to go after Job to test his righteousness, because he knew Job was a stand up guy. He knew Job was go foot the bill. All right. And he gave the devil strict instructions. All right, showing you that the devil can't do anything outside the bounds of what Yahweh allows him to. All right. And that's just like with us. All right. Proverbs 20 and 24. Man's goings is of the Lord. How could a man understand his own way? Roughly paraphrased. All right. But he gave Satan, all right, the spiritual demon Satan, strict bounds and strict rules to do what he wants to Job, but don't kill him. Afflict him, don't kill him. It's Job 2 and 7. So went Satan forth from the presence of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. And he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. Then said his wife unto him, Dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God and die. You know, that wasn't wise. All right, but again, remember Lot's wife. You know, Lot's wife turned into a pillar of salt. You know, these are the things that we have to be we have to know these accounts. We have to have read these stories and studied and read of the ancient times and what our forefathers went through to have some form of understanding of what we're going through today. All right, it's been written for our learning, ultimately. All right, this is Genesis, going back to the beginning, chapter 19 and verse 26. All right, just as we were speaking on Eve, Lot's wife, right? Job's wife. This is Genesis 19 and 26. But his wife looked back from behind him, and it's speaking on Lot's wife. And the Lord judged Sodom and Gomorrah. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. Said the Lord twice there. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven, and overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt, right? Looking back, dwelling. You know, she became dehydrated. You know, she didn't make it. She was dissolved. Instead of her body changing in the twinkling of an eye, all right, getting beamed up, she was dispersed back to the elements, all right, back to where she wanted to stay. The Lord allowed her to stay there and dispersed her there, all right. And that's what 2/3 of our people, they're going to be dispersed right here in America, all right. If they don't get with it, they don't repent, they don't get back to the law, statutes, commandments of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai and try to keep them to the best of their ability. They don't, they just want to continue to crucify the Lord afresh, all right, daily. This is Luke 17 and 32. Remember Lot's wife, whosoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it. And whosoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. I tell you, in that night there shall be two men in one bed. The one shall be taken and the other shall be left. Right? And that's just speaking on what? Not Moism, but how two people go be in a certain position and one is gonna be beamed up and the other one is not. All right. You can look at that as even your children. You could be saved and your children not. You know, the Lord is not dealing with you. The Lord is dealing with souls. He's judging souls individually, and he's judging the nation. He's judging the nations. All right. Everybody's gonna get their portion of what they've done in their body. All right. Pertaining to their lot. All right. So whoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it. Whoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. This verse 34, I tell you, in that night there shall be two men in one bed. The one shall be taken and the other shall be left. Two women shall be grinding together. The one shall be taken and the other left. Right. You talking about, you know, you at your jobs. You might get beamed up right in front of everybody, and the next woman just sitting there looking like like, the same envy, jealous, bitch. Like who that thought she was? She getting beamed up because she was set apart. She didn't live like you live. She don't go about life how everybody does. We're holy people. We're to be set apart. Two men shall be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left, right? When it comes to working, wherever you go be at in that day, or whatever you go be doing in that day, all right, the elect is going to be a seldom few, and it's going to lead up to wisdom of Solomon chapter 5, of this the man who we made, right? That's what it's going to be, man. They're going to look at the strangeness of his salvation, and they're going to be like, damn, this is who we casted off and treated like. Just quick interjection. This is Wisdom of Solomon, just to get it right quick. Chapter 5, I'll get to the point, verse 2. When they, well, I started verse 1. Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him and made no account of his labors. And that's what we do today. All right. And we stand boldly for this truth, because that we know that that's all we have. Everything else that we go through in this flesh is all temporal. Again, Ecclesiastes 7. Everything under the sun is vanity, is folly. All right. It's not coming with us. It's not of value. Verse 2. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear, right? And they seeing that with terrible fear. And they subconscious, they count us as food. Well, they think of us as fools, but in our subconscious, they really thinking of like, why they out there? And they think they know what we teach. All right. And what goes on in the world, they subconsciously think about the Israelites. Whether they try to deny it or not, they think about this truth. Everybody's gonna be accountable for hearing this word, and nobody's gonna be able to say that they did not know. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear. So they fear us on the highways and byways, teaching this truth. All right, just men with books, men with Bibles, right? What we holding up, we lifting up the banner that they may enter into the gates of the nobles, man. Roughly paraphrasing. And shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation, right? Those ICBM missiles, the destruction, all right? Those laser beams of destruction, people getting zapped, destroyed, going back to the elements, turning into a pillar of salt like Lot's wife, simultaneously while the elect is getting beamed up through emergency vehicles to what the government will call a UFO, a UAP, an area phenomenon. All right. These are the chariots of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, the emergency vehicles of the Lord, the Heavenly Father. All right. So when they see these things, they're gonna look at it in terrible fear. They're gonna think it's green aliens. They're gonna think that it's a rapture. All right. They're not gonna know that the angels are gonna look like men, right? Not Cupid. And not only do they save, but they lay down law. They'll put you to death as well, as death angels have a duty on the left hand side, just as the angels on the right hand side have a duty as well. And it says what? They're going to be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation, so far beyond all that they look for. And they repenting and groaning for anguish of spirit shall say within themselves, right? And I'm in the book. All right. So never mind the screen for right now. It says, this was he whom we had sometimes in derision in a proverb of reproach, right? Calling us all type of names, spicks, wetbacks, YNs. That's a new one. Um, right? Ninjas, coons, all type of derogatory terms when it comes to Northern Kingdom, wetback, uh, spick, things like that, right? Verse 4, we fools accounting his life madness is his end to be without honor. How is he numbered among the children of God? He or she. And his lot is among the saints, right? That's who's going to get beamed up and in that day, right? And the rest is going to be done away with. All right. So this is going back into Luke 17 and 36. Two men shall be in the field, the one shall be taken, and the other left. Right. That's the point. And they answered and said unto him, where, Lord? And he said unto them, wheresoever the body is, thither will the eagles be gathered together, right? You know, wherever the elect go be, they go be saved, right? So just as Esau has his quagmire and dog eat dog world where everybody wants to unalive each other and out for themselves, as far as like greed, the Most High creating that same desperation of those who really want to be saved, who want righteousness, right? So you got to be able to see the traps, the distractions, and maneuver through them, right? This Proverbs chapter 31 and verse 3, and I'm gonna start wrapping it up. I've been long-winded. Proverbs 31 and 3. Give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroyeth kings. It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes strong drink. Right? You know, and that you can look at that as wine as philosophy, strong drink as a philosophy, a way of life. You know, we can't take hold to their way of lives. All right. I don't want the next nigga bitch. I deserve my own. I'm a king. Kings delegate with kings. I'd rather break bread with him. Let him know his bitch ain't shit. Right? We need a bro code. Now we got one through the spirit of truth. Right? And that's why us men have to be aligned through the ordinance and the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. We got to delegate amongst each other um, to get our nation correct. Verse 5, lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted. That's the point. So look at it twofold spiritually, man. You know, even Solomon started worshiping other gods from the spiritual aura of the wicked women, concubines and stuff like that he had. You know, you don't want to get caught up in the trap. You know, a woman to have you forget poverty until y'all go through poverty together. You know, so it's all on how your foundation with that woman is established too. It's important because ultimately that's how it usually ends. So do what you want to be done unto you, man, being the point, you know, and that's ultimately what plays on your subconscious if you have any form of righteousness in you. You know, you'll set bounds for yourself to where you can't pass. And the spirit will set bounds for you. But again, your household won't be blessed, be protected, you know. So take Solomon was that example, you know, going after wickedness, going after his wives. That was in Kings. This is First Kings chapter 11 and verse 4 to get a quick hit. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah, his power, as was the heart of David his father. Right? You know, and David committed adultery. So you don't want to gamble. Everybody ain't David. Only one David, even though David is here with us. As the scriptures say, David will be in captivity with us. Right? Um, you don't want to gamble if you David or not. To where you praying Psalm 51, you don't committed adultery, you unclean, you defiled in the eyes of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. You know, you lingering around to the day of atonement, so on and so forth too. You know, you know what not to do and what to do within this truth. All right. But I'll end off with the book of Second Timothy. I don't know if I'm still recording or not, but I'll end off with one scripture. I don't know what that beat was about. Hopefully, it's still recording. It's Second Timothy, and I'll end off with this. Chapter 2 and verse 4. No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who have chosen him to be a soldier. So right, if the right eye offend thee, cut it off. Right arm offend thee, cut it off. It's rather you to go into the kingdom lane than not at all. Off of something simple too, off a little trap, off of lust, off of a fleshly feeling, which the flesh ain't never fulfilled. So Shalom Habatha DT until the next one. All right, don't let the women throw you off focus, man.